Here's something that might surprise you. Researchers at Stanford just published findings showing that when disabled artists collaborate with AI tools, their output isn't just as good as traditional methods, it's more innovative, more emotionally resonant, and reaches audiences that had never been reached before. The AI wasn't replacing human creativity, it was unlocking it. Welcome to Mindcast. I'm Will, and this is episode 3, the finale of our trilogy, The Future of the Creator. We've traveled quite a journey together. In episode 1, we explored the fear, the very real anxieties about AI threatening human creativity. In episode 2, we dove into the disruption, examining how AI is reshaping traditional creative workflows. And now, we arrive at what I believe is the most important story of all: AI as creative assistive technology. Today, I want to challenge how we think about AI and creativity, because here's what I've discovered in my research. For millions of creators who navigate the world with disabilities, neurodivergence, or physical limitations, AI isn't a shortcut, it's a pathway home. It's the difference between dreaming about creating and actually creating. And their stories aren't just inspiring, they're revolutionary. Let's start with a metaphor that's been haunting Silicon Valley for decades. In the 1980s, Steve Jobs called the personal computer a bicycle for the mind. It was this beautiful idea, technology as a tool that amplifies what we can already do, making us faster, more efficient. But here's what Jobs couldn't have anticipated. What about minds that need more than amplification? What about minds that need access? This brings us to our first key insight, the assistive mindset. There's a fundamental difference between replacement technology and assistive technology. Replacement technology says, "We'll do this for you." Assistive technology says, "We'll help you do this yourself." That distinction changes everything about how we understand AI's role in creativity. Because when AI functions as assistive technology, it doesn't diminish human agency, it amplifies it. Consider Sarah Ezekiel. Sarah has ALS and is paralyzed, unable to speak. For years, she was an artist, but traditional tools became impossible as her condition progressed. Eye gaze technology allowed her to control a computer with just her pupil movements, but creating art this way was excruciating, like painting with a single pixel, one eye movement at a time. Then AI arrived. Now, instead of manually placing every brushstroke, Sarah uses her eyes to select styles, compositions, and elements. She types prompts that generate complex imagery. The AI handles what she calls the labor of rendering, while she focuses on the work of artistic decision-making. As she puts it, this technology allows her to take back control of her life. The AI didn't replace her creativity, it restored her agency as an artist. Or take Dave Clark, a filmmaker who's legally blind. Traditional film production requires navigating physically demanding environments, communicating visually with cinematographers, managing complex logistics. For someone with visual impairments, these barriers can be insurmountable. But Dave discovered something fascinating. AI tools like Midjourney, Runway, and 11 Labs allowed him to move production into a virtual, prompt-based environment. Dave has produced commercial-quality films, including Borrowing Time and Another, using entirely AI-assisted workflows. The AI becomes his crew, his camera, his cast, all operated from an accessible interface. As he says, this technology enables everyone with a laptop to be a filmmaker. But here's the crucial point. Dave isn't absent from the creative process. He's directing it. He's making every artistic choice. The AI is just removing the physical and logistical barriers that kept him from realizing his vision. This leads us to our second key insight. AI enhances human agency rather than obscuring it. There's this persistent myth that using AI somehow diminishes the artist, that it's cheating. But this perspective reveals a deeply problematic assumption that the value of art is tied to physical struggle, to the friction of pen against paper, or the precise motor control of a brushstroke. This definition of creativity privileges the able-bodied and excludes millions of potential artists. I want to tell you about Lucas Orphanides, a student with dysgraphia, a neurological condition that affects fine motor control needed for writing and drawing. Lucas had always felt envious of friends who could paint or draw, but his disability made traditional art impossible. When he discovered Dali, something extraordinary happened. He could use his verbal and conceptual strengths to describe the image he wanted, completely bypassing the motor deficit. Lucas created a piece called Stained Glass Woman, a figure made of broken glass supported by a wheelchair. It's a powerful metaphor for his own experience of piecing his life together. Here's what strikes me. Lucas didn't become a lazy artist by using AI. He became an artist, period. The tool didn't steal his creative process, it granted it to him. It allowed him to externalize an internal emotional state that would otherwise have remained trapped. For neurodivergent creators, AI functions as what researchers call an executive function exoskeleton. Take Tay Arndt, a blind and neurodivergent writer who struggles with the blank page paralysis common in ADHD. Tay uses AI not to write the story, but to organize thoughts and break through the initial inertia. The AI allows for what Tay calls a brain dump, a chaotic, unfiltered stream of consciousness that gets structured into coherent drafts. This workflow fundamentally changes the psychology of creation. The pressure to be perfect from the first sentence is removed. The creator can exist in a state of flow without being interrupted by the mechanical demands of grammar, spelling, or linear sequencing. For Tay, AI isn't convenience, it's necessity that allows their voice to exist in a public forum. The AI serves as a cognitive prosthesis, supporting three key functions: initiation, sequencing, and translation. This brings us to our third key insight. We're witnessing the emergence of a new creative standard based on symbiotic relationships rather than individual struggle. We need to understand that unmediated art is largely a myth. Creativity exists on a spectrum of mediation. At one end, you have finger painting and vocal singing, then pencils and brushes, then photography and typewriters, then digital art and video editing software, and now AI. Critics often draw arbitrary lines of legitimacy just before AI, but historically, this line has always moved. Photography was once considered cheating by painters because the camera did the work of capturing light. Today, we accept the camera as a valid tool of artistic expression. For the disability community, AI is simply the next logical step, a tool that automates the physics of creation, whether that's the refraction of light or the syntax of a sentence, allowing creators to operate at the level of intent. The economic implications are profound. People with disabilities face unemployment rates of 7.8% compared to 3.8% for the general population. Traditional workplaces, with their requirements for physical presence and rigid schedules, often exclude them. But the creator economy, YouTube, Patreon, freelance work, offers asynchronous, work-from-home opportunities that accommodate what's called crip time, the need for rest breaks, medical care, and flexible scheduling. AI dramatically lowers the barriers to entry. Traditional content creation required thousands of dollars in equipment and the physical ability to operate it. Now, with tools like AI avatars, automated art generation, and intelligent scripting assistants, creators can produce professional-grade content for about $50 a month. This radical reduction in capital and physical requirements is opening markets to those previously excluded by both poverty and physical limitation. But we must acknowledge the double-edged nature of this technology. AI can simultaneously function as a social mirror, reflecting and amplifying the ableist biases present in its training data. When prompted for a person, AI models overwhelmingly generate able-bodied, conventionally attractive individuals. When specifically prompted for disability, they often produce offensive stereotypes. There are Paralympic swimmers who report that AI systems consistently correct their bodies by adding missing limbs, as if disability were an error to be fixed. So, as we synthesize everything we've learned across this trilogy, let me offer you 3 concrete takeaways. First, if you're a creator, recognize that accessibility features benefit everyone. Voice-to-text wasn't just for people with motor impairments. It revolutionized how we all interact with technology. AI accessibility tools will likely follow the same pattern, becoming standard creative workflows that enhance everyone's capabilities. Second, challenge your assumptions about what constitutes real creativity. If the end result moves people, if it communicates something meaningful, if it brings beauty or insight into the world, does it matter whether it was created with a brush, a camera, or an AI prompt? The value isn't in the tool, it's in the vision, the emotion, the human intent behind the creation. Third, if you're building AI tools or working in tech, remember that designing for disability often leads to breakthrough innovations. The typewriter, the telephone, email, these all have roots in disability accommodation. By centering accessibility in AI development, we don't just serve a marginalized community, we often discover solutions that transform how everyone creates. Here's what I want you to remember from our journey together. Human creativity isn't fragile. It's not some delicate flower that wilts at the first sign of technological change. Human creativity is resilient, adaptive, and endlessly resourceful. It finds a way. When traditional tools fail, when bodies change, when circumstances shift, creativity doesn't disappear, it evolves. It finds new pathways. It discovers new forms. The stories we've explored today, Sarah painting with her eyes, Dave directing films with AI, Lucas creating visual art through language, Tay organizing chaotic thoughts into coherent narratives. These aren't stories of technology replacing humans. They're stories of technology amplifying human potential that was always there, waiting for the right tools to unlock it. They're stories of minds refusing to be contained by the limitations of bodies or circumstances. We stand at a remarkable moment. We have the opportunity to build AI systems that don't just optimize for speed or efficiency, but for access, for inclusion, for human flourishing. We can choose to see AI not as the end of human creativity, but as the beginning of creativity for all humans. We can build the wheelchair for the mind that Steve Jobs prefigured, a device that doesn't just make us faster, but makes us capable. That's a future worth creating. Thanks for joining me on this trilogy. If these stories moved you, if they changed how you think about AI and creativity, share them. The future of creativity isn't just being written by technologists in Silicon Valley, it's being written by every creator who refuses to let barriers stop them from bringing their vision to life. I'm Will, this has been Mindcast, and I'll see you next time.